Well, during the Vietnam War, President Richard Nixon told his team to go into negotiations and make people believe he was unpredictable and capable of anything. This is a strategy, a scare tactic that's known as the Madman Theory, and one that the Trump administration has been accused of using. In his new book, The Madman Theory, Trump Takes on the World, CNN foreign policy expert Jim Sciutto looks at the way U.S. President Donald Trump uses this method and whether or not it's working. And Jim is joining us this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, great to have you here on the show. First of all, I want to ask you this morning, is it working? Is his theory working?
By and large, no. And that's just based purely on the record and on the standards of success as set by this president. If you look, for instance, at North Korea, the president tried fire and fury. He tried the bromance with Kim Jong-un, and 4 years later, North Korea has more, not fewer nuclear weapons, has a more advanced ballistic missile program. The president pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal, negotiated with its allies, and 4 years later, Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon, more aggressive in the region. And Russia, by the way, of course, of much discussion in this country, particularly as the election comes closer again, and Russia is interfering. 4 years later, Russia interfering in the U.S. presidential election again, challenging U.S. forces abroad more aggressively, interfering in Europe. So based on those issues, by and large, it has not.
You touched on Russia, so let's chat about that right now. You've been covering foreign politics for many, many years. When you take a look and you stand back and you look at the globe as sort of a giant risk board, there are two main players. There's Russia and there is China. Why did President Trump appear to side more with Russia than with China?
It's a remarkable question, and I've asked. For this book, I interviewed solely people who worked for this president, appointed by this president in senior positions. I asked everyone that question. Explain the contrast in the approach to Russia, accommodating that the president will never call them out for any aggressive behavior. I mean, most recently, the poisoning of the main opposition leader in Russia. The president given another opportunity yesterday and just said he won't say a word about it. Of course, China, he has aggressively stood up to it, and a welcome change by many on both sides of the aisle here in the U.S., Democrats and Republicans. But why the contrast? Because when you speak to folks in the national security community here, the Pentagon, up on the Hill, Democrats, Republicans, they will say Russia and China are both threats to the U.S., both competitors. But the president has chosen to contend with one and make nice with the other. Just 2 days ago at a rally, he was saying once again, I like Putin. Putin likes me. Why is that wrong? Well, that's fine. The trouble is Russia is working every day to undermine this country, and the president, for some reason, won't stand up.
This madman theory is applied not only to enemies, it's also applied to allies. I want to focus on now here on Canada. Everybody will remember the tweet that went out about NATO saying that, or NAFTA rather, saying that he wanted to tear it up and rip it up. In that same tweet, he calls Canada difficult. He's also gone on in the last 4 years to call our prime minister two-faced, dishonest, and weak. Pete Navarro, assistant to the president and director of trade and manufacturing, has asked, and you have this in your book, what's so good about Canada? What is Trump's position on Canada?
I have to tell you, it was one of the most mind-bending conversations I had for this book with Peter Navarro, and back and forth, where I asked him, I said, it started by saying, why are you using the same cudgels against our ally Canada, trade, steel levies, tariffs, et cetera, that you're using against China? Of course, this is a president that declared Canada a national security threat to justify those tariffs. I said, why? And he said, then he went into a long kind of soliloquy about how, well, is Canada really that good an ally to us? What have they done for us? And of course, I was amazed I had to do this, but reminded him of from Normandy to straight up to Afghanistan, where I've been embedded more than a dozen times. And whenever I was on the front lines, I saw Canadian troops there at the tip of the spear, right alongside U.S. forces. I reminded him of that. But even then, his answer was, well, they were doing it for their own interests. Are they really looking out for us? And I said, it's a relationship forged in blood, right? I mean, not just by shared history and values, but blood, but it doesn't penetrate. And this is one of the unique things about Trump's madman theory, as you say, is that he's just as likely to apply it against allies and adversaries. And this is something that's truly remarkable. I was speaking with Fiona Hill about this yesterday, his Russia advisor, that in a way, Trump has a more hostile approach to allies than adversaries because from his view, those allies are freeloaders, that the U.S. is bankrolling them, taking care of them, protecting them, etc. And that's a view that penetrates beyond Trump, the Steve Bannons of the world, the Peter Navarros. It is mind-blowing. And I got to tell you, here I am in Washington.
Jim?
No one agrees with this view, Republican or Democrat. The president is on an island here.
Okay, well, that is the point that we are going to have to end on. I know that you understand TV time constraints. Jim Sciutto, good to have you with us on your morning today. The book is called The Madman Theory.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.